So we are with John Bush of Armored Saint, but we will talk about Anthrax. John is not rejoining Anthrax. This is strictly a retrospective interview, so don't keep your hopes high. John, how did you first come across Anthrax?
You mean to join the band?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I had a reputation for being a singer in Armored Saint. I guess they thought it would be a nice combination with their music. So they sought me out when they parted ways with Joey Belladonna in 1992. And, you know, it was difficult for me to actually leave Armored Saint because we're such a close-knit bond. But I think that after a lot of thought and hearing the material that they were writing, that was for this album, Sound of White Noise, it felt like the right time for me to take the plunge into Anthrax world.
How different was the experience of writing the first album with Anthrax as opposed to doing things with Armored Saint, which you've done all your life?
Well, it was important for me to still be very involved in the songwriting because that was, you know, my prerequisite of joining. Because I didn't want to just be dictated, hey, sing this, because I never did that. I already wrote, in the past with Saint, I primarily wrote, you know, 90% of the lyrics, had some hand in songwriting arrangement. So that was important to me to do that. I didn't want to just, you know, hey, I'm here, tell me what to sing. So, and I think that they wanted that. They were embracing that. So it was natural.
What did you think you could add to the band when you joined?
I don't know if I thought about what I was actually going to add, but I think it was more about just bringing my style and my personality to the band and letting it all kind of happen organically.
And when the album came out, how did the fan base react? I mean, that's a big change, face of the band.
Well, you know, some people, you know, aren't fond of singer changes. I mean, I'm probably somebody myself who felt the same way sometimes. But, you know, that's what happens in life with bands. There's personnel changes. And certainly making a singer changes the sound of the band to some degree. There's no denying it. The music sounds the same, but the voice is different. I mean, Joey's voices are very distinctly different. Sorry. So, you know, I think some people embraced it. Maybe some old school fans had a hard time with it, but it was what it was.
Now, you also had to sing some of the material that Joey sang before you. How did you adapt to that?
You know, I always want to pay tribute to the way it was recorded, do it the best I can, according to the records. But again, our voices are different, so it was going to sound different, but I did my best in singing it the way it was recorded, just with my voice and my style.
Yeah. Then came the second record you did.
Stomp.
Yes.
442.
And how did things change from the first album?
Well, a lot of things changed. Dan Spitzley left the band, and then Elektra Records, who put out Sound of White Noise, the first record, they fired probably like 25% of their staff, including our A&R guy and the head of the label, Bob Krasnow. So we were in upheaval, and really in a nutshell, the label head that took over there, the label basically said candidly to us that she wouldn't even have done a deal with Anthrax. So we knew putting this record out, we had some pretty high mountains to climb, and I think the response to it was good, but the label did a terrible job with it. Because they didn't care.
Musically, how would you rate this album?
I think there's some great tunes on it. Certainly powerful, maybe not certainly as, not quite as cohesive as Sound of White Noise, but still some great tunes. Random Acts of Senseless Violence and King Size, Fueled, you know, really great Anthrax songs, I think.
What do you think make Sound of White Noise such a classic?
Maybe because it was the first one. There's certainly great songs on this one too. You know, Room for One More, Potter's Field, Black Lodge, Only, High Pro Glow. Just some great tunes. It's apples and oranges.
And then it didn't stop there. Next album was?
Volume 8 came out third, and then we changed to another label. There's a label that didn't last very long and went belly up. And I think that also contributed to the lack of awareness of this record. I think this is also a great record. Inside Out, Catharsis, some of my favorite songs I ever did with Anthrax. Cup of Joe, Piss and Vinegar, real fun songs. Diverse album. Still 4-piece, but Paul Crook ended up playing a lot of leads and actually co-produced the record, or certainly engineered a lot of it, especially my vocals.
What was the feeling within the band like at that time after 3 albums?
Well, I think we believed in ourselves still, and we kept touring and kept working. again, you're only as strong as your weakest link, and your weak link is a record company that's pretty weak. So that certainly big time worked against us, but we trudged on.
And then you made?
Then we made, I guess, this,
yes.
with Comfrey Wall. Great record. It was a Nuclear Blast in Europe, put it out. But in the States, it was a label called Sanctuary, who also went under.
True.
So 2 labels that went under. That's, again, not good for a band's career. Did great in Europe. And there was a great vibe in America. It's a cool record. Again, real kind of lots of different types of songs. You got everything from like Black Dahlia to Refuse to Be Denied, What Doesn't Die, Safe Home was a really big song. Cool record, again. Then we brought in Mark Kadzielawa, and he added a lot to it as a lead guitar player and personality. And he's gone on to be in Volbeat, and I think it's maybe one of the best records.
Now, at that time, there was also a little bit of a controversy with the people asking the band to change the name because of the Anthrax attacks that took place.
Right, after
what was happening?
Well, nobody asked us to change the name. We just kind of felt like if thousands of people died, it might have been hard to get gigs. So, but luckily, fortunately, that didn't happen. I think few people did die. I don't even know if they could even associate it with 9/11. Could have been just some opportunists who did some terrible things and sent anthrax through the mail. But we're glad it didn't turn into like some big, giant, plague or whatever, because that would have been, like I said, it would have been hard to get shows. Hey, Anthrax. There's that band ISIS.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I mean, their career was probably negatively affected by the rise of ISIS. So, but
be careful what you call yourself.
Well, it's true. Scott did some interview saying that we're changing our name to Basket Full of Puppies as a joke. And then CNN broadcasted that, and they said that band Anthrax changed their name to Basket Full of Puppies. Didn't even say that it was a joke. So it was pretty pathetic.
And then you made a live record in Chicago, of all places.
We made a live record at the Metro here in Chicago, and DVD, Music of Mass Destruction. It was killer. Live record, live DVD, great show, amazing show. Chicago's always great. I think, the guys could say otherwise, but I think Chicago might have been one of the best places for Anthrax to ever play. So it felt like it was just a little cut above every other city. And it was great. A lot of fun doing it, and I think we did some more shows in connection with that.
And at this point, your adventure with Anthrax comes to an end.
Well, we first made this.
Yes.
And this was right before the end, and this was The Greater Two Evils, which is me singing all the old songs. Probably wouldn't have made it if I knew I was leaving the band, in retrospect, in all honesty, because why? What's the point? Some people like it. It's just my voice on, Madhouse and Among the Living, among others. But, it was fun doing it because it was very raw in the studio live. But, probably, like I said, if I knew I was going to leave the band shortly after, probably wouldn't have made it.
And what caused you to split with Anthrax?
I think they were ready for a reunion. Maybe there was a little bit of a push from outside people suggesting it. People love nostalgia. And at one point after we made this, we put out, actually, you don't have the record here, shame on you. It was The Return of the Killer A's.
Yes, that's right.
And that was like a greatest hits between me and Joey's eras of music. And there was a time at that point when we talked about doing a tour where we'd both go out, sing our stuff. I'd come out and sing, and then he'd come out and sing, or whatever, vice versa. And it didn't come to fruition for whatever reason, but there was the idea of doing it again at this point, and then that's when I just said, like, I'm not into it. I don't want to do it. If you feel like you want to, have a trip down nostalgia lane, I understand completely, but do it with Joey. I already entertained that, and I wasn't into it at the time. So
at this point, what is your relationship with the guys from Anthrax like?
It's fairly distant. I just saw Frank Bello the other night in New York. He came to our show. It was great seeing him. I jumped off stage, gave him a hug. We talked a lot after the show. Me and Frankie were very close. I was very close with all those guys when I was in the band. I see Scott periodically because he lives in LA, so I probably see him the most. Haven't had much communication with Charlie. But, I treasure my years in Anthrax. I think we made some great records. I'm real proud of them. And, it's just time goes on and life goes on. And, I believe that Joey should be in the band. I think he's right for being in Anthrax.
And what was it like for you being from California and being from New York? How did that work?
Well, it was fun to be exposed to some New York culture. It was great. I spent a lot of time in New York during the writing and recording of those records, and I had a lot of fun.
Now, recently you mentioned that you wouldn't mind performing this material again under some kind of
yeah, I mean,
circumstances.
The agent I have has kind of pushed me to entertain that, and I finally said, okay, maybe I'm open to it. It shouldn't be with the guys in the band. It should be with some other musicians.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be some long tour. It'd probably be, a handful of dates here and there. If it happens, there has to be an interest. There has to be, a desire for promoters to want to do it. We'll see what happens.
And now, let's backtrack to like the 80s. Long time ago, you were considered to be in Metallica.
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Right.
Can you comment on that?
I think that at the time in the early '80s, James was still uncertain whether he wanted to be the singer of the band.
And that'll be around like Ride the Lightning time, right?
Yeah, before Kill 'Em All.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, before Kill 'Em All, and he was unsure. They asked me, but at the time, what I always tell people is that Armored Saint, Joey Gonzo, Phil, and myself, we've known each other since we were 8 years old. Armored Saint was starting to do really well in the LA club circuit, and we were all friends, best of friends. Metallica was doing well too, of course, but they weren't going to be, I don't think anybody envisioned what was going to happen. And for me to leave my band of friends to join some other band, it didn't make sense to me. I didn't want to do it. Certainly was grateful and honored, but again, I always say I was not meant to be in Metallica. That was not my destiny. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.